All right, we're back in session in People versus Robert Durst. Mr. Durst is present with Mr. Chesnoff and Mr. DeGuerin. We have Mr. Bailey in a council table, and Mr. Miata, Mr. Henderson, Mr. Milius, Mr. Lewin. Our jurors and alternates all have returned. Detective Luis Romero has resumed the witness stand. I'll remind you that you're under oath.
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Bailey, and you may continue with your examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Detective.
Good morning, sir.
When we left off, we were about to play an audio tape and have you listen to it
Yes, sir.
of the interview. Before we do that, I just had a couple quick follow-up questions based on things you've already testified to. The first is, I'm looking at People's 290, which we previously marked, and on this particular thing, I don't see an exact timestamp, but I want to know if you know or if you're able to check. What time did you actually start the interview with the defendant at the New Orleans or the Orleans Parish facility?
The exact time was 6:40 a.m.
6:40 a.m. Okay, and you made a record of that?
Yes, on my notes.
Okay. And the second thing is you testified previously that you arrived in New Orleans at approximately 1 a.m. and I didn't ask you, but I want to know, did you arrive like in the city of New Orleans at 1 a.m., at your hotel at 1 a.m.? What time was it? Where was it that you arrived at?
We arrived at the hotel where the defendant was staying, the JW Marriott, at around 1 in the morning.
Okay. All right. So those questions being answered, thank you very much. I would like now to play an audio tape of this interview, and then when we're done, I'll ask you a couple questions about it, okay?
Yes, sir.
And we previously marked this as People's 291, and the transcript is 291A, Your Honor. May we pass those out?
Yes.
And I'm going to apologize in advance. The audio has Mr. Lewin's voice on it, and he's quite loud on the audio.
Really?
Shocker.
Mr. Durst's voice on the audio is not quite as loud, so we need to adjust the volume accordingly. And if people are being blasted out, please let us know, and we'll do our best to work with the audio.
Thanks. Yes, do your best.
We're good at that.
Not a loud voice is a positive.
I think he was just closer to the microphone. All right, may I play 291?
Yes. And this is not recorded.
You want to see him? You're doing the WC. He's right there. Here. Right there. Give me the comfier seat. I'm John Lewin. I'm a deputy DA. Do you want mine, Mr. Durst or Bob? You tell me.
Bob is fine.
Okay. So Bob, basically, I'm from Los Angeles County, and I'm here to speak to you. Before we start, I want to let you know that I feel like I know you. I've never met you. I feel like I know you very well, and very interested in talking about a lot of the different things. And I know, I know it's probably a very uncomfortable day for you right now, and I understand. So the situation, obviously, there's some information that we'd like to share with you, things that we know. We'd like to hear some things that you know. Obviously, it is absolutely your right whether you want to speak to us or not. I'm definitely have some things I'd like to tell you. Detective Whalen, Mike's gonna advise you of your Miranda rights. And are you cold? Can we get you something?
It is a little cold in here, yeah.
Do you want a blanket? You want to get a blanket?
Yeah, I'll get you.
Do you want any drink, some coffee?
Coffee would be great.
What do you, how do you take it?
Black.
Black, all right. I wouldn't mind some myself.
Yeah, before I get started on that, Mr. Durst, just get your address. Good.
My address?
Yeah. You have an address in,
In Houston,
What is it?
2520
okay.
Robinson Street.
Is that one word, Robin, or two?
Yeah,
One word?
one word.
Okay. And that's street.
Houston 77006.
Okay. 3706.
I'm sorry, it's 77005.
Okay. And is it a house or apartment?
An apartment building, it's apartment 1405.
1405, okay. And how long have you lived there, sir?
Almost 10 years.
Okay. And you live there by yourself?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Durst, you have a phone number or a...
713
Okay.
807-8706.
And this is a cell phone?
That's the land, that's the line in the house.
Okay, the landline?
Yes.
That's your house phone, okay. 807-80706. How about a cell phone?
713-248-1144.
Any other phone numbers? Any other phone numbers besides those two? Do you have any other phone numbers?
In New York,
Okay, what would that one be? Is that a business number or just another residence number?
another residence,
Okay.
212-925-3200.
Okay, and where is that residence?
That's on Lenox Avenue in New York.
Do you have the address?
Yes, 218 Lenox Avenue.
That's in Manhattan?
Yeah,
And is there a unit number for that one, sir?
that's a building, I own that building.
You own the, okay, the building. Okay. Where's that? Lenox and what's the cross street there?
121.
Okay. 121. So that's on the west side or the east side? West side of Manhattan or east side?
Okay.
Okay, well that would be the west side.
Oh, okay, no,
West.
So it's actually, it is in Manhattan, but it's kind
You
of
want
hard.
this on you, or you want it around you? You want to stand up? All right. I got a little more padding to protect me against the weather here. Tim, you got that on? No? Wait a minute.
I think we missed.
All right, let's try it again. A little higher, hold on. Got your hand here. You can stand up here. Once you stand, you put it on yourself. Here you go. All right. Okay, only two rules on the copy. One, you can't throw it at either one of us, and any of us, you can't throw it on the computer. Fair enough?
Very fair.
Okay, here you go. All right, and it's flat like you want it.
Okay, so you got the house, the apartment in Robin Hood in Houston, you got a place in Manhattan, on Lenox. Any other residents? I mean, not necessarily places that you own as property, but
Yes.
what else would that be?
No, those are my residences.
Those are your two primary residences? Okay, none other than those two?
So here's the situation. We're gonna read you your Miranda rights, and when you're finished, I can tell you that if you like, obviously, you'll be able, if you so choose, to not speak with us. If you also would like, you can also tell me that although, if you would like, that although you don't want to say anything to us, that you want to listen to what we have to say. It's completely up to you. So it's gonna happen is Mike's gonna read them to you right now.
Okay, Mr. Durst, I know you don't hear that well, but I'll do my best so you can hear me, all right? You have the right to remain silent. Do you understand? You have to acknowledge me.
I understand.
Okay, thank you. Anything you say may be used against you in court. Do you understand?
I understand.
Okay. You have the right to the presence of an attorney before and during any questioning. Do you understand?
I understand.
Okay. If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be appointed to you free of charge before any questioning if you want. Do you
I
understand?
understand.
Okay. So with that, we'd like to ask you some questions.
Do you understand the rights that you've been given?
Yes.
So, at this point, I'm just gonna start. So, first of all, I'm a prosecutor with the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office. And what I'm gonna do, if you don't mind, I would kind of like to start at the beginning. You know, I actually, it's kind of weird for me because I feel like I know you, even though I've never met you. So I want to kind of go back. I know a little bit of your background. I know the situation, you know, with your mom and with your dad. My understanding is that going way back, did you actually witness your mom on the roof? Did you actually see that?
Yes.
Because I know your brother Doug, who, just from what I can tell, I'm gathering is not your favorite person. Am I correct on that?
Say that again.
Your brother Doug is not your favorite person. Is that a fair statement?
That's fair.
There was a line. You know, we have, obviously you're aware of the Jinx.
Obviously.
Yeah, and there was a line where I think it's a deposition for Douglas, and that's gonna just bug me. There was a deposition for Douglas, and they end up asking him, is it true that you hired a lawyer to protect yourself against Robert Durst? And he says, yes, and very formal. And then they ask you the same question. Do you remember what you answered?
No.
You were asked, do you know why your brother Douglas hired somebody to protect him against you, hired a bodyguard to protect him against you? Do you remember what you answered?
Yeah, I said he's a pussy.
It is still my favorite thing that I've heard you say. So I understand that, obviously, going back, I know that you, going way back, you went to Lehigh, right?
Right.
And then, and it sounds like you, is it fair to say you enjoyed the 60s?
Yes.
And that would mean, and by the way, if there's anything that I ask you that you don't want to answer,
I wouldn't answer it.
okay. You know, I've seen all the interviews that you did with Mark and Andrew, and one of the things that really was interesting to me is that you pretty much, you said at the beginning that you would answer all their questions, and you answered almost all their questions. So you went to Lehigh, you graduated from Lehigh, right?
Yeah.
You go out to UCLA, go out to Los Angeles, and then it sounds like the reason was to go to grad school, but it sounds like it was more fun, pot, what do they call the screen therapy, etc. Did that do much for you, or no?
No, that's it. Lehigh was all men.
Okay.
Very, very structured. UCLA was fun.
Did when you came out here, well, I'm saying here because I'm thinking I'm still in LA. When you came out to Los Angeles, at that point in time, was it your plan to I'm gonna take over the business from Seymour, or it seems like you never liked it, right? It was never what you enjoyed.
never liked it, that's fair.
When you came out here, were you planning at that point? And maybe you didn't have a plan. I'm trying to remember. I think you came out here in around 1965. Is that right?
Yeah, I graduated Lehigh in '65 and I went right to UCLA.
And when you came, so in 65, you would have been, I think, 21, 22?
22.
22. At that point in time, had you worked for your dad before then or no?
Yes, a couple of summers.
A couple of summers. And I know that your grandfather started the organization, and then your dad and your uncle took it over. And I know it's grown, obviously, ever since. Was it, when you were a young man in the mid-60s, it was nothing like it is today, right? In terms of its size and scope, or was it even then, it was still pretty...
It was substantial.
But it's grown
Much bigger now.
Yeah. So you come out here, and I know that's when you met Susan. And I know that, I'm gonna come back to it. I know that she was somebody that was important to you and that you cared about. Is that right?
Best friend.
Yeah, and I, one of the things that really surprises me about you when I listen to you is that you will admit to things that most people lie about. So I'll give you an example. Well, when you're interviewed by Mike Struck.
Yes, Mike.
Mike Struck, the New York detective.
No, Mike Will.
Yeah. When you're interviewed by Mike Struck originally, and you're relating this story to Mark and Andrew, because obviously there was no video of your original interview with Struck, so I've heard the 20 hours with Mark and Andrew. Mike Struck, this is you talking, you said you went in there and you say to him, so I told him, you know, the marriage was fine, everything was good. And then he went and talked to her friends and he found out not so much. So it was, so clearly your original statement to Struck wasn't true. I mean, right? That the marriage was good.
My original statement to Mike Struck. I guess I reported that Kathy was missing.
Right, but I mean,
And he asked about the marriage, and I said there were some minor problems, and then her friend said they were major problems.
right, and it was interesting, you know, even during during the interview with Mark and Angie, you were asked about her family, and you would say, you were asked, there's a question where you're asked, was it kind of Bob meets the average American family? And you respond, you say, no, it was more like Bob was forced to, and then you go on and you explain. And what really kind of caught me was that most people, when they're talking to anybody, I mean, police, family, etc., most people are very much concerned with what other people think of them. And so what will happen is that they will kind of make themselves out to be nicer, better, etc. And I noticed that with about 90% of the things you're asked, you are brutally honest. I mean, more honest than most people that I've seen for 90%. But I'm wondering, is that something you're aware of about yourself in comparison to other people or no? I mean, is that something, am I pointing out something that you've ever thought about or was aware of or no?
More or less, I'm certainly aware of it.
When you killed Susan, that was not something you wanted to do.
I'm gonna stay away from killing Susan.
You know that the killer left a note, right?
I know
the cadaver note. And forgetting for a second, just talking about the killer, why would you think the killer would have left a note?
I'm gonna stay away from that.
Okay, let me go another way. Forget about Susan for a second. I just want to talk about somebody in general. Let's say that somebody is murdered. So we're not talking about Susan right now. And the killer kills them and sends a note wanting their body found. So I want to be clear, we're not talking about Susan. I'm asking you, in that scenario, so you're a police officer, in my case. So in this example, you can't have smoked any pot that day. It's just not good for the, as a police officer, you're gonna have to have no pot for that day. So.
I've been smoking pot every day of my life for as long as I can remember.
Right, so that means, since it's my example, so for this day, you're a police officer for the day, you're a detective, and you get called, there's a crime scene. Again, we're not talking about Susan, and you end up finding out that the killer has left a note. What would that tell you about how that killer felt about the person that they had killed? A note basically saying, hey, here's where the body is. Something you're comfortable answering or no?
Well, whatever you want to talk to me about. It's more pleasant in here than out there.
Okay. So, as you're listening, will you at least consider, you'll listen to what I'm saying, right?
Listening to everything you're saying,
Okay.
I would like to interject.
Sure.
That in 2007, my health started going to pot.
Okay.
And I got cancer of the esophagus.
Right.
And the surgeon very successfully cut out the whole esophagus.
At Baylor.
The cancer was gone, no chemo, no radiation, no none of that. But when he cut out the esophagus, he cut out other parts of my gut. And I have a problem urinating. Now, right now, I feel I need to urinate.
Oh, okay.
So I would like to urinate.
No problem. No problem.
Thank you over there.
Look.
For the record, there will be a few minute pause, not a pause, there'll be a few minute delay if anyone needed to stretch.
Okay. You didn't want to edit that part out.
What's that?
You didn't want to edit that part out. Okay.
I wanted to make sure that everything was captured in live, real time, Your Honor.
Okay, great. Thanks for that.
I think I could play it in 2 times speed. You guys want?
Your Honor, would the court like us to speed it up to the...
Sure. Any objection?
We'll stipulate for that.
Okay. Stipulate the speed.
Mr. Bailey, do you want?
Hold on.
Mr. Bailey is to handle the flight control.
I don't think on this is the LC.
For the record, we were at 21 minutes before we started this.
I'm told this quiet part is Mr. Chesnow's favorite.
Yeah, complete quiet.
you know, there are lots of,
So Mr. Bailey has skipped ahead from 21 minutes to 22 minutes and 40 seconds.
Thank you.
Saved a minute 40.
Thank you.
I assume you don't want to work off, right? I assume you don't want to work off.
What's your right?
so right now, aside from what, you know, your current situation is, and obviously there are lots of things that I know, and I know it's tough, and I'm guessing right now you're probably nervous, is that right? And scared? I mean, it's, you know, this is a terrible place to be, and it's not, you know, it's certainly not the kind of lifestyle, you know, and place that you've been. And it's, I mean, I know it's scary being here. I think that I get the impression from everything that I've listened to over the years. I think you know when you're talking to somebody that knows you or doesn't know you, right? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
No, I'm not getting this.
So, in talking to me, do you feel like I'm somebody that, hey, this guy seems like he knows a lot about me?
Sure.
Okay, I definitely do. As much as I could find out about you, I know. I've been working on this case for a couple of years. As you sit here right now, kind of where do you see, what are your hopes for going forward? What are you hoping is going to happen?
Well, 72 years old,
Okay?
cancer survivor. I have hydrocephalus,
Yep,
and that's my shunt right there.
I saw it.
And I don't blame the surgeon, and I did not sue the surgeon, but what he did for me worked out to be very bad for me. My balance is not better than when we started, and that was the purpose of the operation. And he had to do an operation on my spine before doing my head, and as a result of that,
You still don't have good movement? Oh, God. I can't, I've got the same problem that you do. My hearing is not so good. It took me a second to hear it. Yeah, that is, that's not good. You know,
so it hurts to look like that or to look like that. And at the end of the day, just walking around a little bit, everything from here to here gets all tight and swollen. And I have to stretch for a while before I can walk anymore.
Are you able to drive a car? Can you drive a car?
Yes, I can do those things.
I was gonna ask you,
Anyway, so I'm looking, I'm 72.
right, almost,
Almost 72.
not till April 12th, I mean. I want you to assume for a minute, and I'm saying this, so you're not admitting, and I'm telling you, I want you to assume that you had done some of the things, or all the things that I think you did. I want you to assume that you killed Kathy, for instance. And I know you're saying, you're denying that, right? You're saying, I didn't do that, correct?
Correct.
Well, I want you to assume you did do it. If you did do it, at this point in your life, would you have an interest in saying what happened and telling her family? If you had done it, or would you go, no, you know what, no, that's not really something I would care about. I don't really care if they know where she is, what I did with her, if that had happened.
If there was something I could do for her family,
Okay.
and it would get me, then it would be worthwhile for me.
Well, so here's what I can tell you. You know that Ann's 101 now.
I have no idea.
Yeah, she is. She's 101. You know, and you know that Kathy's grandmother lived to be 100, or at least that. I don't actually know when she died. And obviously, you know, losing a daughter, you know, is difficult. Losing a
Is
sister.
she still lucid?
You know what? So I've never contacted her. So, you know, it's interesting. By the way, did you ever have any idea that we were looking at, forgetting about the Jinx for a second. So I've been working on this. We've been working on this. They haven't been working on it as long as I have. They came in late. But I've been working on this case for 2 years, and I'm curious if you had any idea that I was working on it out here.
Out here in New Orleans?
No, that's not what I mean. I'm still in Los Angeles.
Well, I assumed you would be.
Well, so I've been working on this case for all that time, trying to get to know as much as I could, trying to learn as much as I could, and trying to put it together. We tried to be careful who we contacted. So it's interesting. You know that your brother Douglas, who I've never talked to, by the way, what's interesting to me, and again, I'm telling you what I know. I know that, so again, Bob, I don't know what happened with you and Kathy in terms of particulars. I don't know whether you planned it out. I don't know whether it was something that happened just while you were there. It would not surprise me. Some people disagree with me. The whole Prudence Sparrow situation. She looks like, I know that you had a lot of affairs. You had a great line with Mark and Andrew. You know, you were asked about this is one of the things, Bob, that you are, and I'm all over the board here, but it's interesting. I watched All Good Things. You watched All Good Things. Do you know the biggest problem with All Good Things, in my opinion? The biggest problem, do you know what it was?
I don't know.
By the way, again, and it's interesting to me, what made you do the movie, do the commentary and talk to Mark and Andrew? I don't get it. What made you talk to them?
Still sort of putting that together in my own mind. But I've been approached by 48 Hours, and way back when I was approached by Connie Chung. And they wanted to do something like had come out with Mike Tyson, where there was all this bad stuff about him. And he was actually really a good guy.
Okay.
And they wanted to do that with me, and I never felt like that. I never felt that I was really a good guy.
You know, and that's always, that's what I'm saying about you. A lot of people in your position, they try to make themselves out to be a lot better person, a lot less responsible. You don't do that at all. When you were talking about Kathy and the affair, so it was interesting. I would laugh when I watched all 20 hours of your interviews over and over again. The biggest problem with the Jinx, do you know what my feeling the biggest problem is? It doesn't, you're better than what they've got. Your natural interviews is better.
For the whole long weekend when I did the interviews for the Jinx,
Yeah.
I was on meth. The whole time I was on meth. And when I looked at the little pieces of it, I was going like this and like that. And it should have been obvious. Surprised my lawyer let me go ahead with it because it just, I looked like there was something going on.
Well, so Bob, is that a way of you saying that the things that you said during that interview, you didn't understand questions or you weren't getting it? Because Bob, because before you go any further on that, certain things I know, and you seem like a straight shooter. I assume you would prefer that I be a straight shooter and not a bullshitter, right? Okay, I'm a straight shooter. I've watched those interviews. I don't know why you did it. I still don't explain. I know your lawyers didn't want you to do it.
No, they did not want me to do it.
And they told you they didn't want you to do it repeatedly. and you did it anyway. When you were asked during those interviews, so for instance, you were asked about your relationship with Kathy, and you were asked about, you remember how you used to take the Polaroids? And you would take the Polaroids and then you would have some woman over, you'd take the Polaroid before, take all the stuff down, then when she left, match up the Polaroid and put it back, right? So your condition during those interviews, it's very clear that you understood the questions, that you understood the answers. So, you know, I mean, you can say that you were on drugs and didn't know what was going on. I can tell you, I mean, that one won't work. You know, it's interesting. Go ahead.
I'm not trying to say that my answers were wrong. I'm just trying to say I was during the thing. I think that what I said were the correct answers to the questions. But we were talking before about why did I do it anyway. I think the reason I did it had to be because I was spooked, speedy one.
Oh, okay, so you're saying, you're not disputing that you answered this stuff.
No, I'm happy to live by the answer,
Right.
is what I'm saying.
And even more than that, it seems like that had you been the same Bob Durst and been born, you know, Bob Smith, and your dad was a lawyer, you know, a doctor, you know, successful, but not what you have, that life might have been different. Might have been, you know, you would have been more motivated. You would agree that your motivation to succeed in life, to kind of, at least in a kind of conventional way, you never really had it, right?
No, I never really had it. And part of succeeding is that you've got to fight, whether you like to fight or don't like to fight. My brother, who took over the company, he liked to fight. Kathy liked to fight. I don't like to fight.
Yeah, and listen, I absolutely believe that. And by the way, I know that one of the things that was bizarre to me is that, so the footage, the depositions of you and Doug, that was occurring when you were basically suing him over the trust stuff, right?
Right.
And my understanding is, I don't think you mind talking about this at all, my understanding is that you believe that Douglas did improper things regarding the trust, right?
Yes.
And if I were to ask you on a scale of 1 to 100, with 1 being, you know, I'm not really sure, and 100 being, I'm absolutely positively certain he did illegal things with the trust, what would you tell me?
I'd say that's the right answer.
Between 1 and 100, how sure?
100.
100, right, okay. And in addition, tell me if I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. I think one of the reasons that you, and it's fair to say you pretty much hate Douglas, right?
That would be fair.
Okay. By the way, one of the things that I always worried about, I thought about when you have an incredible sense of humor. And do you know what I'm especially referring to? Yeah, I don't
know what you. I mean, I have a very dry sense of
Okay.
humor.
So-
I have a sense of humor.
All right, you made, do you remember the Durst Obesity Clinic?
Yes.
I have that. I've seen it. Now, I would like to say that I am not a fat guy. But if I were to say that, let's face it, that would be a lie. So my concern is tell me when you leave. I'm hoping I will not be the Lewin Obesity Clinic cartoon. I always thought, you know, when Bob sees me, I'm gonna end up in one of his little cartoons that he made up. Is that gonna happen or probably not? I think one of the reasons that you hate Douglas is that Douglas, in your mind, is a phony.
Douglas beat me up.
But I mean, yeah, going back when you were a kid, but I'm even saying,
Broadly speaking, Douglas beat me up.
did you mean physically or do you mean?
I don't mean physically, I mean beat me up. My wife said it in the Jinx.
Yeah.
When she was on the phone and they had those recorded messages, she said Douglas wanted to steal your birthright, take over the company, you know, steal your money, such and such and such and such, and he's done it. And she's right. Douglas wanted to take my birthright,
and he got it.
wanted to run the company, wanted to take my money, and he did those things.
Well, let me go another way. When Kathy disappeared, Douglas has said that he knows nothing about anything that happened after Kathy disappeared.
That would not be true.
And he and your dad were coordinating the meetings with Ed Wright and Scapetta, right?
Yes.
And I assume that you're not denying that you were in the process of fleeing.
I'm not denying I was in the process.
And I think the reason you're not doing it is, you know, it's obvious, there's nothing to it. Here's what I understand though. If you've known, my understanding is you were waiting, so when were you gonna be leaving? So we got you today, so let me go another way. Why are you still here? How come you're not in Cuba? How come you weren't in Cuba 3 months ago or a year ago? I don't get it.
Well, we gotta step back.
Okay.
I had no idea that I was going to need to flee. I had made arrangements, I had considered the possibility, I had looked here and looked there, but I had never really said, you know what, they're gonna come after me, I've gotta get far away where they can't get me, and I've gotta do this, this, and this, and go over there. I never got that. I liked living in Houston.
But didn't you do that? So after the last interview with Mark and Andrew, do you remember what you did right after that interview? The last interview? Right afterwards? Do you remember or no? Where you went?
The last interview, you know, the interviews took place over a 3-day weekend.
They did, but remember, then there's the interview after that, a year and a half later, when they end up showing you the letter that the envelope that you now know they got from Syrup.
Yeah.
So that was a year and a half later. So I understand after the original interviews, I understand why you weren't really thinking anything was that bad. But how come that was 2012 and you saw the envelopes? How come you didn't leave then? It's mind-boggling to me.
Why didn't I leave then?
Yeah.
I guess inertia. I just didn't really think that I was going to end up arrested.
So so far, there's been nothing that's aired on the Jinx that you weren't aware of, right? Other than, let me back up. You did not know that envelope had come from Syrup, right? Does that make sense?
I knew that my handwriting was my handwriting, and I knew I had written a whole bunch of letters to Susan.
Right.
And I, if not knew, certainly assumed or expected that Susan always saved everything, that they were
Right.
there somewhere.
Right, but I'm sure you probably thought that the police had all of them, and it turned out that Syrup had one of them. You know, which is an interesting thing too.
Seemed to me the police had them and then didn't appreciate what was there.
Right. So you're thinking if the police haven't done anything all these years, you're thinking it's probably okay.
And it was the same thing 1 week later, and the next week later, and the next week later. And I've been doing this medical stuff since 2007. Thinking I'm going to run away, my doctors are here. I mean, I was living in Los Angeles for the 4 years.
Right, but then you just, all of a sudden, you sold everything, and we thought that's because you were worried about us. Is that right?
That was because I was getting sicker and I had to choose a place where I was going to go into the hospital and be operated on.
So is your
I preferred Houston Medical Center to the doctors I met in Los Angeles.
Okay, so here's the other thing I don't get. You started moving, so after, between Susan's death and Morris's death, you ended up getting a bunch of money, you know, you took it out, you had it in the car, etc. And then you got caught in Pennsylvania. But by the way, can you tell me, I always joke, Bob, because I'm Jewish as well, and you're Jewish, you did not help our people's reputation by shoplifting the $7 sandwich. Our people get enough grief. That did not help our reputation. So can you tell me why, with all your money, what made you do that?
Well, in the interviews, Detective Cody Cazales says he wanted to get caught. And I look back at that thing, and maybe I wanted to get caught. I certainly can't explain it any other way. Being a fugitive was not something I did well.
Right.
When I was in prison, none of the inmates could understand that at all. I mean, you have lots of money. Why'd you get caught?
Right.
I had lots of money. I'd never get caught. I got caught with lots of money.
Well,
I can't explain it. I can't explain it to you.
Right.
I can't explain it to the inmates. I mean, it was just ridiculous. That's one of the few things that Cody Cazales says that I can sort of say, well, maybe that's what it was. I hated being a fugitive. I would walk down the street and turn around and start looking over my shoulder. You know, I was the worst fugitive the world has ever met.
You would, when you would talk about, you know, there's a couple expressions that you use that are just, you'll say, during your interviews, you'll always, no matter what's going on, the end of them is always, I just wanted to go to bed. You're talking about whatever incident you go, something you go, hey, when Kathy wasn't going to come back, the terrorist incident with Ann and I think it's Kevin and Ann who lived with the Doyles next door. Do you remember that incident? Yeah, and you were asked about it and all, you know, they're showing you the commentary. And you're going, and you're admitting it. Yeah, we had a fight, and it was raining outside, and you're not denying anything. And then they're asking you about it, and you're going, I just wanted to go to bed. You always use that expression. You also always say, like you're asking about, and I can't do you as good as you can do you, obviously, but you'll say something like, about, you know, your wig. You know, so I've grown a beard in the past. I mean, but I can't grow one overnight. And I decided, you know, clean, close shave, a wig, small guy. You know, I'm looking pretty good. You'll say pretty good. So I'm always, it's interesting to me because I look at some of the stuff that you did, and as bright as you are, perfect example. I don't think you have a problem talking about this. You told Mike Struck that you had drinks with the mayors, right?
Yeah.
Didn't you know they're gonna come back and ask? I don't get that one, explain that.
Monday morning quarterbacking, and I told him I had drinks with the mayors. In fact, that obviously he's gonna go right over and say to the mayor, she says he had drinks with you, you had drinks with him? I'm gonna say no, of course.
So you know what you said, and this, do you remember what you told Mark and Andrew about why you made that up? Do you remember what you told them, or no?
Leave me alone.
Yeah, this you said, this is what you said. You said, who knew that the police would do oodles of investigation and I would look for motive, and I wasn't used to somebody questioning my veracity. Do you remember saying that? Yeah. Hey, so do I do a pretty decent you? Pretty good? Yeah. Okay. It's very funny because for me, working on this case for 2 years, even though I've never met you, it's a very weird, probably a weird feeling for you, because I feel like I know you extremely well, but I've never met you. And you're probably sitting over here going, that's kind of creepy. This guy seems to know a lot of it. Is it a little uncomfortable for you?
You've taken the time out and done all this stuff.
Listen, I've really tried to get to know you, and I've tried to understand. So I want to go back for a second so for Kathy, were you surprised? What did you think of the original investigation by Detective Struck?
See, I thought Detective Stroke did a pretty reasonable job under the circumstances. The way the interviews come out makes him look like a nitwit, but I just don't think it was like that. I think that was what he said. He has no body, he has no crime scene, it's a missing person. What do you want me to do?
Well, you know what I didn't get? So here's the thing. By your own admission, you're the last person to see her before she gets on the train. I mean, that's no secret. You've said that over and over, right?
Right.
And you say she gets on the train, but you would agree that the only evidence of her getting on the train is you, right?
Right.
So what I didn't understand is once you know that Bob is lying, and he knew, he interviewed, I mean, you might not know this. Did you know that he interviewed, Struck? They knew about Mayor a week.
Right away. They would have had to know right away.
Yeah, so here, why didn't they search? They should have gone to the house on Hoyt, and they should have searched it.
You see, they did search it.
15, 20 years later.
And Mike Struck people, we're talking a little house.
Right.
And Janine Pirro had them in a lake and all that stuff. The house was very small. In terms of searching the house, it's 1,100 feet, 800 feet upstairs. This is the old house. It's been demolished. They built it 300 feet downstairs. They walked into all the rooms. They looked everywhere. That crawl space.
Wait, you're talking about the state troopers, right? The Connecticut state troopers.
Whoever it wasn't Connecticut, it was New York.
I don't mean Connecticut. Yeah, the New York State Troopers. And they're doing that. How soon after the murder? How soon after her disappearance were they doing the search of that they came over? Do you remember?
Yeah, I was trying to catch on.
Trust me, I'll get it.
The day after I reported it on a Thursday. The day after was Friday.
Right.
And they went into the house and they looked everywhere. There wasn't much to look at. They all show that downstairs door going out to the crawl space. There was no basement in the house. So what you had underneath the living room and the bedroom was about 2.5 feet high.
Wait a minute, but so you report it to the 20th precinct on Friday. I
called
Thursday, right, and you said they told you had to wait.
They said, we don't want to hear about it, in essence. They didn't use those words, but they said, you guys must have had a spat. It's just been 4 or 5 days. They sounded like my father and my brother. Nothing's going to come of this. We need some kind of evidence that something's happened to her, rather than what you're telling us is that she's split.
Right, but let me go back. How was it that the troopers came to the house? You didn't call them, it was Gilberta, right?
Gilberta contacted them Friday morning after I had told everybody that I hadn't seen her since the following Sunday. And I went into the precinct where Mike Stroop was Friday afternoon.
So, you know, when you came in, you had that couple-year-old New York magazine that has your dad, the 5. So I was trying to figure out, tell me if I'm wrong, it was 2 years old when you brought it in. You know the magazine cover touch, right? It says your dad on the cover. What made you bring that in? It's a weird thing to have. It's 2 years old. Or can I tell you what I think?
You can definitely tell me what you think.
Well, I'd rather hear what you think. Go ahead. Tell me why you brought it in.
Why did I bring that in? I had a... In the business, we kept old newspaper stories about us.
Right.
And that's just jumped up at me.
Well, so to me, I think you kind of brought that in because you were kind of showing them, hey, I'm an important person.
Yes.
Okay. And so you go in there, and you know what was strange to me was, and I don't know if you remember this, you called from South Salem, you called Ann or Mary, I can't remember which, or both. I think you called Gilberta. You called some of Kathy's friends and family to find out if they'd seen her, right? Did you remember that?
Sure.
But what was strange was, before you called them to check where she was, you actually called the police. You had already called and the number for the police. So it was weird to me, how come you didn't call them first before you called the police? Do you understand what I mean, or no?
I was not looking forward to talking to them at all.
Okay.
I was calling the police to report Kathy missing. And if when I called, they said, sure, come on in tomorrow and you'll report a missing person, I don't think I would have called her family or Gilbert at all.
Right, but it would seem to me that if you think Kathy's okay, if you're trying to figure out what's wrong with her, the first thing you do is you call her family and you go, hey, have you seen Kathy? It's just a weird, do you see what seems strange about calling the police first?
First I should call her family and friends.
Right.
Before calling the police.
So tell me why the police first? That one I didn't understand.
Because I didn't feel like talking to her family and friends.
Everything okay?
Oh, yeah, that's the chief of police.
Oh, okay. So you go and you end up reporting her missing on that Friday. You knew that Kathy was going to start a new rotation on Monday. She was going to be doing that. It's an acute, I think it was an acute pediatric ICU rotation.
Something like that.
And you were aware that if Kathy couldn't come in or wasn't available, you didn't know specifically where she was doing the rotation, right? You didn't have the name of the doctor and the place she was going to be doing it, right? You didn't know.
There was neurologist who was very close to Kathy. I always felt too close to Kathy, and they had numerous phone calls.
Do you remember who that was? George's name?
I can recall it, I can't recall it right now. I can definitely recall because they had repeated telephone conversations.
Was this a student or?
No, this was the head of the neurology
Oh,
department.
wait, neurology or urology?
What's the difference? NEU?
Neurology is going to be somebody who's dealing with nerves in the brain. Urology is generally
Oh,
going to be
excuse me, definitely neurology.
neurology, okay.
And her and he and Kathy had become quite close. And that is what I believe she was doing.
So you thought she was going to do the neurology clerkship that way?
Right.
So let me ask you, if Kathy wasn't going to come in to, let's say she was unavailable, she was sick, etc., what you would have known is that she would need to call, the dean's office to say, hey, I can't come in, right?
She would need to call somebody.
Do you know who she would call? Do you have any idea?
No.
But at least you knew.
I knew the neurologist's phone number. I knew that she was spending a lot of time with a man, and I had either deduced or been told, whatever, that that's what she was doing.
It's not Dr. Cook, is it? Was it an African American guy? Okay. So you know that Dean Cooperman gets a call on Monday morning, supposedly. You're aware of that, right? What is that?
Go ahead.
You know about the call to the dean, right? So I went back and I talked to him. And what the dean said that basically he had only talked to Kathy maybe 10 minutes the whole time she'd been there.
Oh, that's not true. I don't think that's true.
And he said the only reason that he thought it was Kathy that called him was because the person that called on the phone said, it's Kathy. But what's interesting is that if Kathy were going to be calling to say she wasn't coming in, Kathy would have called the rotation where she was going to be. Does that make sense?
I guess. I mean, I have no idea how that stuff works. I mean,
So
there was the hospital and there was the medical school.
Right.
And certain things the hospital was doing,
Right.
and certain things the medical.
right, you wouldn't have known, hey, she needs to call Dr. Smith at,
No, I
right?
wouldn't have known.
But you would have known, hey, she could always call the dean of the medical school, right? You would know that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, he gets this call, and by the way, that call was a big problem for New York, because they're going, wait, if Kathy is dead, how can she be calling?
The movie and Andrew was under the opinion it was Susan Berman.
Yeah, and I wanna ask you something. And again, we're not talking about what actually happened, but let's say you would have come to Susan, okay?
She would have said no.
She would have said no?
She would not have risked her life for something like that.
So let me just ask you though, so I want to change a little bit. Let's say that you came to Susan and you said, you know what, Kathy and I got into an argument, and she accidentally hit her head, and oh my God, I don't know what to do. You said Susan was your best friend, right? I mean, yeah? No?
Yes.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Susan was probably closer to me. For 2 years of my life, Kathy was my best friend.
Right.
But other than that, Susan was my best friend.
And Susan was a very loyal person, would you agree?
Absolutely.
So, do you think that if you would have come to Susan, I'm not saying you did this, but if you would have come to Susan and said, you know what, oh my God, I got in an argument with Kathy, she was furious at me, she hit her head, she died, I panicked, there's nothing I can do, can you please call the dean? Do you think she would have done that?
I I don't think she would have done it, but maybe she would have done it. But in the All Good Things movie, they interview lots of people before it and after it, and one of those people they interview is a reporter named Steve Silverman.
Yep, I know Steve Silverman.
Okay.
People Magazine. I think he was in charge of People.com at one point.
Oh, good for him.
Yeah, and you know, he and Susie were roommates at one point.
Yeah, I remember when Susie introduced me to Steve Silverman. I was very impressed with Steve Silverman because he and Susie were both unemployed at that time. And Susie was talking about getting a job. And Steve Silverman says, now listen, we are not looking for jobs. We are looking for positions. And that impressed me. In the All Good Things, when they interview Steve Silverman, he says that Susan Berman is the last person you would want to confess a murder to.
Right, you know, it's funny though, when almost everybody I've talked to, Linda Obst, you know Linda Obst?
I met her once or twice.
The people closest to Susan, everybody says, even Sarah, that if in that situation, maybe a little bit because of her dad, the whole, mafia thing, that they think that she would have done anything for you.
Damn close.
So I want to, and I'm going to just ask this straight out. If you had killed Kathy, would you tell me?
No.
Okay, you know what? If you had killed Susan, would you tell me?
No.
You know what, Bob? That is a very honest answer. As we're talking, are you okay? Is there some-
Okay, something's...
Let me help you. What do you mean?
I'm just trying to pull this orange thing
Like this?
over these things.
Oh, you want this up?
Yeah,
Like this, and you want this
I
down? Oh, I got it. You want this, what?
There we go.
You're welcome. Okay. So, all right, so listen, I appreciate you being honest about that. Is it fair to say that between Morris, Kathy, and Susan, at the time that they died, the person that you cared the most about was Susan? Is that a fair statement? I mean, that's not...
Just that Kathy and Susan are so much earlier than Morris. I mean, Morris came into my life much later than Kathy and Susan.
Well, Morris was a pain in the ass, right?
Yeah, sort of.
I guess what I mean by that is that by the time Kathy disappeared, you didn't feel the same way about her that you did before, right? I mean...
Oh, no. I mean, Gilberta has it right in her quote. When she first met us, we were in love.
Right.
Period. No two ways about it. We were in love. That lasted about 2 years.
Right.
And then we had the thing with the abortion.
Right.
And that was the end of it.
And Bob, you had a great quote that I thought maybe one of my favorite quotes in the whole interview is you're talking about what happened to you and Kathy. And the thing that described your relationship best to me is you said basically when you first met, you guys would go out to dinner. And you'd tell her, I'm gonna order this, why don't you order this, and then we'll kind of share. Do you remember this? And you said at the end, Kathy would be like, you get what you want, I'll get what I want, and leave my food alone. Yeah?
That was very descriptive of the relationship. In the beginning, we shared everything, and towards the end, we stopped sharing anything.
Well, you had talked about, you refer to yourself as kind of the dominant one
I was the dominant person in the marriage.
And part of it was that she was really young when you met her. You know, I think you married when
I had
19.
the money, I was 9 years old, I had the education. I was calling the shots, as Kathy would say.
Was it hard? So as she got older, more confident, and a little bit, do you feel like she kind of, I mean, this is I think she kind of got tired of some of the bullshit. I mean, you know, she got tired of,
Absolutely.
and you have said, you know, one of the things again, that nobody admits, Bob, except for you. They just don't. You have a quote where you say, I was very, 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 very controlling.
All that was true.
And Kathy got tired of it. And then you had, you know, you were having affairs, right?
And she was.
I think that one of your affairs was different than the others. Do you know which one I think was different?
Prudence Farrow is what everybody looks towards.
Well, is that accurate or no?
No, I was closer to Prudence than I was to anybody else that I slept with. I mean, Prudence and I spent time together. My other affairs were 1-2 nights in the end. And Kathy knew and hated the fact that I was seeing Prudence Farrow.
You know what's ironic, Bob, and to me, is that despite the issues, I think Kathy loved you even at the end. I mean, she wanted a divorce, but I think, you know, you had a lot of money. Do you think that's what Kathy was after?
No, but Kathy felt like somebody, I don't know whom, I would guess Gilberta, told Kathy that if she could prove that I'd been beating her up, she would get a bigger settlement.
Right.
So Kathy started doing these things to start fights, and she would walk around rubbing this and then go tell her friend, look what he did to me, and stuff like that.
Well, you know,
She didn't want me to win. Maybe she accepted that I was going to get a divorce if I wanted to get a divorce, but she didn't want it to look like I came away the winner. So she had to get a lot of money.
you know what? Is it fair to say, though, you also didn't want her to be the winner, right? Is that fair or no? Because she was only asking for
Oh,
200.
come on, she wasn't asking for 200,000. She didn't even have a real lawyer at the time. I mean, I don't know what she had 2 lawyers that she went through in less than a
Well, hold on a minute. Dale Ragus said that the Thursday before, you guys had rejected a $250,000 settlement. Are you saying that that's not true?
Not true.
Okay. Now on that, would you, if that were true, would you tell me? You
I'm
would.
going to tell you that.
Okay.
That we never got discussed.
Wait, I just want to go back. I asked you before, I asked you a few minutes ago, I said, hey, if you had killed Kathy, would you tell me? And you said,
No.
no. I asked you if you killed Susan, would you tell me? You said no. So I'm asking you right now, if there had been an agreement for there to have been a $250,000, agreement, would you tell me?
I would tell you,
Okay.
I would have paid it.
Yeah, okay, I'm going to tell you, Bob, I believe you when you tell me that. I think you're being truthful about that.
How could I reject $250,000? That would be ridiculous. If it ever got into court, she was going to get a lot more than $250,000.
What did you think she was going to get? Because I didn't think you had that much money
She
at that.
couldn't get the trust.
Okay.
Because the trust excluded that kind of a problem. If somebody had gotten a judgment against me, the trust would prevent them from collecting it.
How much was the trust giving you? You're getting about $3 million a year, is that right at that point?
Something like that.
And was that the only, so you're getting, that's what you can live on but you didn't have,
$3 million, I'm not like that, I'm not fancy.
hey, what's wrong with me? What's Mayor's, Bill Mayer? Bill Mayer said one of the funniest things he said was that, he said one day he looks over and there you are fixing your roof, or fixing the roof on the shed.
And that's the kind of thing I like doing, that's why I was not good in the business. I liked tinkering and doing little things, I didn't like things for big money. Kathy never went to court. She never filed what you filed to get divorced. Because she didn't want to get divorced.
Wait, tell me about that. So you think, so your view in the end is she didn't want to get divorced, right?
No, I don't think she ever wanted to get divorced.
And at the end, I actually think you wanted a divorce.
At the end, it had just gotten to be one big fight. I just wanted her out. I wanted to go our separate ways. Call it a divorce or a separation, whatever you want. I just didn't want to keep doing this.
And at that point in time too, is it fair to say that you had fallen in love with Prudence?
Yes.
And Prudence has said that very near the time of Kathy's death, that she had told you that because you were married, that, you know, that was a problem for her. Did you remember that?
Yeah, we had that discussion. She was married too.
Right, but you had, she had told you that you needed to be divorced. Let me just, I'm looking. Some things I remember, Bob, and some stuff, it's a lot to keep track
When we
of.
met, we were both married.
Right?
When we stopped seeing one another, we were both married.
So, I'm looking right here. I got it, I just gotta find, okay. So Prudence ends up saying that, well, she told, you remember who Harry Brown was? Harry Brown was a guy she dated. He was an older guy. Older than you are.
Her husband was that guy, something Brun. Prudence, we're talking about.
Right, correct. Harry Brown dated her after,
I remember she had an old man boyfriend when I first met her.
so they dated in 1983. By the way, the building that she was living in, was that one of your buildings? One of your family buildings? It was confusing to me.
When I met her, she was living in her mother's apartment on Central Park West.
Okay,
I rented her the apartment on 43rd Street.
okay.
And that was one of her buildings.
So, Prudence told Harry that you had told her, and Prudence has said that you had said that you guys got into it because she had concerns Prudence did about you being married. And you said, yeah, that's true, right?
Yes.
And then you told her it's not a problem. She won't be around much longer.
Oh, I don't not tell Prudence
No.
anything like that.
Okay. And I got a question. If you had said that, would you tell me? Or no?
If I had told Prudence, oh, don't worry about Kathy, she'll be gone soon, I would tell you, and I did not.
Okay, so in fact, the quote was that she won't be around much longer. She'd be completely gone, out of the picture within a week. So you're saying you did not say
I
that?
did not say that.
And again, if you had said that, you would agree that,
I would tell you. I did not tell Prudence anything.
okay. Did you call Prudence? So it's also, she told the police that either the Saturday before Kathy was last seen or the Monday or Tuesday afterwards, that, that basically you got a call. So she got a call from you, excuse me, after Kathy's disappearance. And that call, you told her that apparently it was from a payphone, and you said you won't be hearing from me for a while. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember that.
So
That
tell
was with Peter, whatever the guy's name is, who said that I kicked him in the head. Can't remember.
Peter Schwartz.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take our break until 1:30. Do not converse among yourselves or with anyone else on any subject connected with this case. Do not form or express any opinion on this case. We'll see you at 1:30.